In this week's EV news, Europcar adds the Mercedes EQ range to their UK fleet. Tesla faces a class action lawsuit in California over range. A summer sales surge sees one new EV registered every minute in July. UK lawmakers fear that China will use EVs to spy on Britain. Welcome back to another EV News, where we feature EV news stories from the UK and beyond. I think there was general agreement last week over how crazy the suggestion was that China was going to shut down our cars after selling them to us. But if you haven't seen that one yet, there's a link in the description if you want to catch up. As always, make sure you click the like button, and if you're new here, subscribe with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on the next one. I've just enabled memberships for the channel. Check it out if you're interested in providing some support to keep things ticking over. There's absolutely no obligation. We're going to carry on with things as they are, and everything you enjoy about the channel now is going to stay the same, but members will get bonus videos and content that won't be available to everybody. So every now and again I will publish a video that will be for members only. So if you're interested in getting in on the action, signing up for membership, do check that out. It starts from just 99p per month. First up, some good news I think from Europcar, who have boosted their UK electric fleet by adding a number of Mercedes EQ models. The EQA SUV, EQC 4x4 and EQE Saloon are now available to business and private customers from locations across the UK, offering both short-term and long-term rental agreements. The new arrivals include the EQA 250 AMG line Premium, the EQC 400 4MATIC AMG line, and the EQE 300 AMG line. Europcar has also adapted its customer support for electric vehicles. It's now providing certified electric vehicle experts at selected locations around the UK and comprehensive vehicle handover and charging instructions to support that. Drivers also get a digital EV guide to help them understand the best vehicle for their journey, to understand charging cables, and they provide a Shell recharge card and app, providing access to over 10,000 publicly accessible charge points across the UK. Now, I love to see this. No matter whether you're a fan of the Mercedes EQ range or not, rental companies adopting EVs has to be a good thing. It needs to become the norm where when you need to rent a car, first and foremost, you're offered an EV, because that gets us another step closer to critical mass for EV adoption. Loads of people get given hire cars for work or when they travel or whatever, and if you can experience electric without the commitment of actually having to buy one through just renting one for a short period of time, I think that's going to go a long way. Plus, rather selfishly, it also lets me rather cheaply get my hands on some other EVs to try out and to make some videos with, and that's got to be a good thing for you as well. Let me know if you'd like to see an EQE review as much as I'd like to make one, and I'll see if we can make that happen. Next up, Tesla in potentially a little bit of legal hot water as they face a lawsuit over range claims in California. 3 owners are suing the car maker in a proposed class action lawsuit that accuses the company of falsely advertising the estimated driving range of its EVs. The lawsuit cites a Reuters article published last week that reported Tesla had created a diversion team in Nevada to cancel as many range-related appointments as possible after becoming inundated with owner complaints. The 3 plaintiffs cite occasions where their Teslas did not achieve close to the advertised range and have said they have complained to the company without success. James Porter, an owner from Petaluma, California, who has a Model Y, said in the lawsuit that on one trip he lost approximately 182 miles of range, despite only travelling 92 miles. The lawsuit states, had Tesla honestly advertised the range of its electric vehicles, consumers either would not have purchased Tesla model vehicles or else would have paid substantially less for them. The complaint seeks class action status to represent all persons in California who purchased a new Tesla Model 3, Model S, Model Y and Model X vehicle, and it seeks unspecified damages. Now, I wouldn't read too much into this if I'm honest. Most Tesla owners seem more than happy with the range of their cars and the claims that were made about them. And I think some of these claims being made here are pretty unrealistic. I've never known any EV to be that drastically below its quoted range in normal use. The only thing that maybe even comes close is the way some cars can be a little bit poor on range in the winter, especially if you drive them quickly. The Stellantis 50 kilowatt hour cars like the Peugeot E208 I drove last winter are probably a prime example of this, where people complain because they're seeing much less range in the winter than they do in the summer, but actually it's just that architecture isn't particularly good and it is particularly prone to high consumption in cold weather. But what do you think? Will we see more and more of this kind of thing going forward? Of course, America is the land of the free and the home of the lawsuit, so if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen there. Used bargain of the week time. Last week's bargain I-Pace got quite a few people talking, so we're going to continue that low-cost, big liability theme this week. And of course, used bargain of the week is where I find something electric on AutoTrader that catches my eye, and it is usually the cheapest example of that car in the country. How about then an e-tron 55 for less than 25 grand? 103,000 miles on the clock, and although it lacks the fancy camera mirrors, it does have the panoramic roof. A huge amount of battery headroom in this e-tron 55, so although it has been busy, it clocked 103,000 miles, there's a decent chance that the battery is in very good order indeed. You occasionally see a 50 slightly cheaper than this 25 grand price point, but the 55 is definitely the one to have. It goes further, charges faster, and as we found out when I had one for a couple of months, it charges at almost its full charging speed from 0 to 80%, and then it carries on really quite fast after that. The charging curve is absolutely monstrous, so the 55 would definitely be the model for me. But are you brave enough for a bottom of the market e-tron 55? I mean, I suppose it does have potential to chuck up some really big bills here. It's an out of warranty Audi, and they're not exactly known to be cheap to fix. But it is also a little bit simpler with it being an electric vehicle, electric drivetrain, and it doesn't have those camera mirrors, which are one of the big things with the e-tron that people say goes wrong as they get a little bit older, so it could well be worth a punt. But what do you think? UK sales figures news next, which I know you all love. The SMMT figures for July are here, and what a month it was. Battery electric registrations went up by 89% year on year, with 23,010 registered. This represents a 16% share of the UK new car market. Plug-in hybrids were also up. 11,702 registrations captured 8.1% of the market. And sadly, mild hybrids also seem to be gaining traction. They're absolute snake oil, if you ask me. A complete waste of resources, and it's a shame not only that manufacturers are pushing them, but people are buying into it. A mild hybrid at the end of the day is capable of 0 pure electric miles and just has a so-called hybrid system to provide a power boost. So what's the point? I've seen quite a bit of discussion around these sales figures. The number of pure EV registrations means one was registered every minute in July. Impressive stuff, and it's a definite sign that the market isn't slowing down anywhere near as much as some people would have you believe. There's one particular nutty corner of anti-EV Twitter who were suggesting that because there are some pre-registered EVs on the market on AutoTrader, that manufacturers are just gaming the figures. They're just registering loads and loads of EVs that they'll sell later at a loss, and all they're doing is fudging the numbers and making EVs look good. Now, pre-registering cars isn't a new concept. It's happened in the motor trade for a long, long time. And you'd think someone that's been in the motor trade for as long as this person would know this. But if manufacturers are fudging the numbers for EVs, then what on earth are they doing with petrol cars? Because just look how many there are for sale on AutoTrader with less than 100 miles on the clock. There are absolutely loads of them, and there are many more than there are electric cars. So yes, there are definitely some registrations in these July figures that don't correspond directly to customer deliveries, and manufacturers have done some pre-registering to shift more units and perhaps bolster these numbers a little bit, but that is the same across all fuel types and it is not exclusive to electric vehicles. This petrol Peugeot 208 has been in stock since it was registered in September last year. So are we fudging the sales figures for petrol cars because nobody wants them? All in all, what we can take from the new registration data though is a strong indication of market share, and that is growing for EVs and hybrids. There's no doubt about that. And finally, Some more batshit crazy fear-mongering about China. You'll remember last week, we were all worried about how the Chinese were going to disable our cars, leaving the UK and Europe stranded and paralysed as traffic comes to a halt. Well, this week they're not doing that. They're going to use their cars to spy on us instead. According to the Telegraph, ministers are of the view that technology embedded in EVs will allow harvesting of information, including location data, audio recordings, and video footage of their users. If it's manufactured in a country like China, how certain can you be that it won't be a vehicle for collecting intel and data, said a senior government source to the Telegraph. I mean, it's just another string in the anti-EV, anti-China bow, isn't it? Exactly the same baseless bollocks, really, as the stuff about them turning EVs off that was published last week. Is there a risk from equipment made in China? Perhaps. Should we be far more worried about, well, basically everything else, including the mobile phones we all carry on us? I think so. Is it far more likely that the real issue here is that China are building better, cheaper, more popular EVs than we do more locally to the UK and Europe, and people are upset about that? Well, I'll let you make your own mind up on that one, shall I? But that's it for this week's EV news. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on any or all of these stories, and definitely let me know if you're brave enough to take on that bottom of the market Audi e-tron. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're new here, subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next one. Check out the channel memberships options too if you're keen on supporting the channel. Anything you could do would be massively appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.